next teachers' strike.
For 10 years, you never got a pay raise.
Deciphering the trans ban. And gun violence in black and white. Russian investigators said that there had been several safety violations at a mall in Siberia, where a fire on Sunday killed at least 64 people, including what's believed to be an entire class of school children. The fire alarm system was silenced and emergency exits were blocked, forcing people to jump to escape.
Средства эвакуации, там огнетушители, бронспойты, можно было. То есть очаг возгорания, он был небольшой изначально.
Authorities have opened a criminal investigation. The family of Stefan Clark, the unarmed black man who Sacramento police shot 20 times and killed, broke their silence today.
Why did you just shoot him in the arm, shoot him in the leg, send a dog, send a taser? Why? Justice! I want justice for my baby! I want justice for Stefan Clark!
Activists who joined the Clark family today are calling for an independent investigation into the Sacramento Police Department. They want the records of both officers involved in the incident to be released. The officers have been put on paid leave. Today, the State Department announced that it will expel 60 Russian diplomats in response to Russia's alleged poisoning of a former spy and his daughter in the UK earlier this month. It's part of a coordinated effort. 17 EU countries and several others made similar moves. In addition to the removals, the U.S. will also close Russia's consulate in Seattle, which the White House said was because of its proximity to a submarine base and to Boeing, a major defense contractor. The expelled Russians have 7 days to leave the country.
То, что делают сегодня Соединенные Штаты Америки, они рушат то небольшое, что еще осталось в российско-американских отношениях.
Sadiq Mateen, the father of the man who shot and killed 49 people at the Pulse nightclub in 2016, was an FBI informant for a decade leading up to the shooting. That's according to newly filed court documents in the federal case against Noor Salman, the wife of the shooter, Omar Mateen. Salman is accused of helping her late husband plan the attack and obstructing investigations afterward, and could face life in prison. Her lawyers asked for a dismissal or mistrial because the prosecution didn't disclose her father-in-law's relationship with the FBI, but the judge denied the request this afternoon. The elder Mateen hasn't commented. South Korea and the U.S. announced they would renegotiate their trade pact in a victory for the Trump administration's new tariff policy on steel and aluminum. Seoul has agreed to reduce steel exports to the U.S. by about 30% and open its car market to more American vehicles. In exchange, South Korea will be exempt from the White House's metal tariffs. The country is the third largest exporter of steel to the United States. Last month, teachers in West Virginia went on strike to demand a raise and better benefits, and they won. Teachers in Oklahoma say they may be next. They've gone more than 10 years without a raise. And after continual budget cuts, their salaries are the lowest in the country. They're giving Oklahoma legislators one last week to fix the problem and strike a deal.
Bonnie Green has been teaching pre-K, kindergarten, and first grade in Oklahoma for the past 30 years. She's a devout Christian and conservative Republican who prides herself on living modestly.
So I'm going to take you out here to my 11-year-old Honda Pilot.
But she's about to do something she never thought she would do. After 3 decades of teaching, she's preparing to walk out of her classroom on April 2nd with an estimated 30,000 other teachers across the state, in the hope of forcing Oklahoma to raise her pay and restore funding to education.
My first year here, I got $1,000.
Just for supplies?
Just for supplies to add to the classroom. This past year was $220. All of this materials right here are things that I bought out of myself. The record players, something that I purchased myself. So I do a lot of shopping at garage sales during the summertime.
Bonnie says the last time she got a raise was more than a decade ago, but most of that money was eaten up by a 20% increase in insurance costs. Now, she and her fellow teachers are demanding a $10,000 raise for themselves, a $5,000 raise for support staff, and a $200 million increase in school funding. So far, legislators have not been able to agree on a solution. This problem has been going on for 10 years. Why are you taking action now?
West Virginia was probably the catalyst. We decided they can do it, so can we. They said enough is enough, and that's what we're going to say.
Have you ever been able to save money during your career as a teacher?
I would say never more than maybe $3,000 or $4,000. And we might have garage sales to supplement. We might sell off pieces of furniture, or we go buy secondhand. Everything, is bought secondhand. Even the clothes, a lot of times that I would wear would be secondhand clothes.
Amen. So we start our day with our coffee and a few verses. It's 1 Corinthians 10:16.
Amen. The cup of blessing which we bless is not the fellowship of the blessed. My husband and I, because of health bills, we ended up having to file bankruptcy because we had gotten ourselves in over $30,000 in debt just with medical.
Even if the teacher's demands are met, Bonnie will struggle to make ends meet and pay for health care. So last month, she decided to dust off her resume after 30 years and apply for a second and third job.
I saw a company that's been advertised called Shipped. I'd go buy the groceries, then take them to the people's homes and deliver it to them. There's another company that I just applied for, and it's called VIP Kid. So I would be teaching online children from Beijing, China.
And when would you be doing that?
It's the hours would be from 4 o'clock in the morning to 6 o'clock.
So you would be getting up at like 3:30 in the morning then, teaching from 4 to 6 and then going to teach the kids
and then
at
going
your
to teach
school?
my kids, yes.
How are you going to do that?
Well, you can set your hours, so I'd probably be doing about 15 hours a week, and they said that that's $25 an hour.
Is it common amongst teachers here in Oklahoma to have a second or third job?
Yes, teachers will work in places like Walmart, like JCPenney, 7-Eleven, maybe babysitting after school, tutoring, anything to help make that paycheck of theirs stretch a little bit more.
A pay raise might help teachers going forward, but Bonnie still worries about the damage that has already been done by 10 years of stagnant wages and funding cuts.
You would not want to be working in an industry that for 10 years you never got a pay raise. That you would walk away from that industry and you would go to some other company.
Let's say there is a young person who comes to you and says, I would love to go into teaching and, I want it to be my career. Could you, if things don't change with teacher salaries here, could you in good faith tell that person to stay in Oklahoma and be a teacher?
No, I could not. No, I would not. This is a walkout. This is a school closure across the whole state that we are saying you need to look at how much you're spending and how much you have cut back on spending in education. Education is the future of Oklahoma. So you need to invest in that future.
In a tweet storm last July, President Trump announced a blanket ban on transgender people serving in the military. It was a sharp reversal from Obama administration policy, which allowed trans people to serve openly for the first time, and required the Pentagon to pay for transitions. The Trump administration eventually issued a memo formalizing the president's tweets, and setting last Friday as the deadline for producing actual guidelines to implement the ban. Those guidelines are now public, and they're anything but coherent policy.
The memo Trump signed basically endorses recommendations made by Defense Secretary James Mattis after he convened a, quote, panel of experts to review available data and research on the issue. Mattis wrote in his recommendation that there are, quote, substantial risks to letting some transgender people serve in the military. And I talked to Blake Dreeman, an active duty Navy lieutenant commander who's also transgender, about that.
We're already here. We're already doing the job. We're already deployed. We're already writing contracts, being in the infantry, out in the field, doing our jobs every single day with no demonstrable impact on any sort of readiness or unit cohesion. We have a medical thing that needs to be treated. And once we're treated, we're back in the field and ready to go.
Mattis signed off on a handful of policy changes, most of which hinge on a diagnosis of gender dysphoria, a conflict between your physical gender and the gender you identify as. The policy carves out an exemption for a small group of people who happen to get in at the right time. Transgender military personnel who were receiving medical treatment for gender dysphoria, in other words, transitioning to the gender they identify as, before this new policy change. They can continue serving and they can continue with their transition. For everyone else, it's a different story. If you've been diagnosed with gender dysphoria after joining up but aren't yet getting treatment, you can still serve, but you won't be allowed to transition. If you were diagnosed with gender dysphoria before trying to enlist, you're banned, unless you've been, quote, stable in the sex you were born as for 3 years. So if you've been living as the gender you identify as, you can't enlist. The biggest change for future recruits? It bars any transgender people who have undergone gender confirmation surgery in the past, or plan to in the future, from enlisting. But this policy isn't going into effect anytime soon, because it was already blocked in the courts after a handful of LGBTQ rights organizations challenged the proposal following Trump's tweets. But Blake told me that doesn't mean transgender people currently serving aren't feeling the effects of this administration's 180.
A lot of our soldiers and sailors, airmen and Marines have been confused as to, okay, am I gonna get med-boarded? Am I gonna get kicked out? And so we've had to go back and do a lot of education with our own service members that know this memorandum grants you, or recommends that you be grandfathered in and that you should be safe. Now, if you haven't come out or you're still in the closet, I recommend that you make that decision one way or the other fairly fast, because the moment that policy is in place, and the court injunctions are lifted, then you risk your career by coming out.
Why do you want to serve in an organization that just put forth sort of a policy paper saying that they don't think you're fit to serve or that you're not helpful to the organization?
This country is bigger than that view. Our calling is to serve the nation. And the nation is bigger than the small subset that would wish us to not serve.
The Saudi government said over the weekend that it intercepted 7 missiles fired from Yemen by Iranian-backed Houthi rebels. Debris from the missiles killed at least 1 person. The war between Saudi Arabia and the Houthis started 3 years ago today, when a coalition led by Riyadh and backed by the U.S. launched a campaign to retake Yemen's capital, Sana'a, and undercut Iran's influence on the Arabian Peninsula. Since then, at least 10,000 people have been killed, and the number of coalition airstrikes has ticked past 15,000. And nearly a third of those have hit civilian targets. Vice News got a rare look at what one of those targets looks like up close.
يعني معاه قوة هذا يعني كارثة قوية دمر لنا كامل ولا تدخل لنا حاجة.
Yahya Messa's home was destroyed in one of the first airstrikes on Sana'a. The strike hit a Houthi missile depot, causing a massive blast just 200 yards from Messa's doorstep.
وهذا البيت كله يعني دمر كامل. هذه كانت غرفة. السقوفات يعني نضلي. كل مكسر الخشب كسري. ما خلوا لنا شيء.
But Messa's 10 kids and his brother's family chose to stay in what's left of their home. Around 2.5 million people have been displaced because of the conflict. His brother Mohammed has to live with a daily reminder of what he lost. Ramzi, his 14-year-old son, was home alone when the bomb fell. He was among dozens of others also killed. Messa suffered a stroke right after he found out about his son. He's been paralyzed ever since. Yemenis like the Messas are caught in a proxy war between Iran and Saudi Arabia. The Saudis are hoping to force the Houthis out of Sana'a and install a more pro-Riyadh government. But the Houthis are dug in, which means the airstrikes are certain to keep coming.
الأطفال قاعدين متعودين على هذا قاعدين يلعبوا ويخرجوا صحنا وقت البرد يعني برد جلسوا يعني مرضوا كلهم جالسين الحمد لله يعني 3 سنوات احنا في وسط البيت وجالسين على الوضع القائم على الطبيعة صح ان الظروف معانا صعبة لكن نسي وعاد كذا في بيته
Living on the south side of Chicago, I have to think about gun violence. I don't worry about people coming up to shoot up my school. I'm more scared of traveling from school to home and vice versa. Around this whole neighborhood, that's where a lot of shootings happen. I hear gunshots all the time. I mean, if you hear like gunshots, make sure you're not by a window. Make sure you like stay low. That's just common sense to us. No one will ever try to help us. They feel as if we're black kids, meaning that we're ghetto, we're ignorant, we're causing the problem. They don't see us trying to fix the problem.
We want to formulate a message on how we're gonna combat gun violence. I want us to say the same thing, but first we gotta figure out how violence exists to us in our minds. Not to no other youth group, not to nobody else, but to BRAVE.
BRAVE stands for Bold Resistance Against Violence Everywhere, and we are a violence prevention youth program.
I'm just tired of being scared to do whatever I feel like I should be allowed to do with teenagers. Like, I want to go outside, I want to go walk around my neighborhood, skip, feel happy. Like, you can't do that because you scared. Like, you just got fit right. You feel like it's a prison without bars, honestly.
If the shooting never would have happened in Parkland, do you think we would be marching in D.C. on Saturday?
I don't feel jealous about how the Parkland kids sparked up the movement. It wouldn't have happened in Chicago. Between gang shootings and school shootings, I think that the problem is similar because the problem is the easy access to guns. Meeting students participating in the march from different parts of the country, I think that I'll get to understand their background and where they're coming from, you know, because we go through two different types of violence. But I would hope that they would understand how much we go through here and how bad it is.
I am experiencing so many emotions right now. I'm happy, I'm excited, I'm nervous, anxious. I really want to see how it's all going to turn out.
Okay, I want to remind everybody while we're here, while this is a getaway from Chicago, we're here to try to accomplish something. Yeah, we are. We're not just a representation of ourselves, we're a representation of Chicago. Yeah. So remember, stay on your best behavior, stay on your game, have fun, and enjoy the moment.
In the past, nothing has really worked out unless the youth got up and did something about it. It's a lot that adults can't do.
Hello, everybody. I want to start off with a chant. Everybody repeat after me. Everyday shootings? Our everyday problem. My name is Trevon Bosley, and I'm here with the brave youth leaders of St. Sabina, and I'm here to speak on behalf of Chicago's youth who are surrounded and affected by gun violence every day. I'm here to speak for those Chicago youth who feel their voices have been silenced for far too long.
Seeing Chicago represented on the national stage was really great because usually we are just seen as the bad city that causes the most trouble. And just see all those people supporting us and really standing by us was really great. These guns got to go. We're making a statement, and I feel like now the politicians have no choice but to listen to us.
My memory of Brown began in the fall of 1950 in the quiet Kansas town of Topeka, where a mild-mannered black man took his plump 7-year-old daughter by the hand and walked briskly 4 blocks from their home to the all-white school and tried without success to enroll his child. The child of whom I speak was I, Linda Carroll Brown.
Yep. Get out of here.
Wow.
My mom would not like that at all.
I thought it was a really good solo, and that the sort of moment when you go like, okay, now you're merely showing off. Never happened.
I didn't expect it to go jazz-wise. I thought it was going to stay in kind of more of the soft rock style.
I'm not going to say it, but I have a guess who that is.
Stone Temple Pilots.
Wait, I don't know.
Whoa!
I don't know anything about this band. Wait,
clearly I don't either. Oh, that's surprising. Was that Rob Halford's voice? He's got like a 12, let's call it 14 octave range. Nothing but power.
A little disconnect to me about hearing a song so defiant, but recorded that pristinely. I mean, just that little guitar like lick that comes in after the first line. It's just so tasteful. And then
Yep.
Step right up and buy a ticket to that midnight show.
either Stone Temple Pilots or Judas Priest. I can't decide which one. It really is a very awkward position because people work extremely hard on what they do, and to like sit in judgment of it.
It's probably not something that I would put on. I enjoy a screaming voice. Screaming that sounds joyful. There should be more of that in general in music, I think.
It's Alice Bag.
Wow.
Also current?
Far out. Killer.
We're a lot of music out there we're not aware of.
Yeah.
That's Vice News Tonight for Monday, March 26th.